Welcome to the first half of what I read in May. Now, there are 7 books in today's list, and I will give you a fair warning that I go on and on about a lot of them. But the good news is there are absolutely no spoilers. So I'll just give you a description of what the book is about and kind of my take on them, as well as my Goodreads rating on it. Now, remember, if you are not friends with me on Goodreads, why not? Make sure to friend me below. I can see what you're reading. You can see what I'm reading. And yeah, I'm always looking for book suggestions. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, author of the Frosted Misfortunes Cozy Mystery Series starring my own little kitty cat, Lucky. Welcome to my booktube channel where we talk all about mysteries, whether those are books, TV shows, or movies. So if that sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Tuesday and I do extra videos like today because I just can't help it. I have a lot of things I want to say and a lot of things I want to share. It's kind of like whenever you start a new project, you're like super excited. But in theory, eventually, these videos will just be every Tuesday. So let's get into today's list. So I read 7 books so far for the first half of May. This is in no particular order. So the first one is the FBI thriller series from Coulter. I tried to read books 1 and 2. The Cove was number 1 and The Maze was number 2. Now, The Cove I DNF'd. It was just kind of boring, which was odd because The Maze, which was the second book in the series, I gave a 5 to. It was amazing and I loved it. Basically, the FBI thriller series has, I think, 25 or 26 books in it, and each book has a different main character. Sometimes they repeat, but this particular one, I really like this main character. Her sister is killed by a serial killer 7 years ago, and so she joins the FBI to hunt this person down and try to figure out, you know, who it is and bring them to justice. And this is basically a guy who puts women in a maze, which quite honestly, who has that much time? But it's supposed to be like the Greek mythology maze. And once they get to the center, then he kills them. And so he's been dormant for 7 years. And in the meantime, though, she has been working on her FBI skills and she's a profiler and she gets into this special group with this other guy. And he's like some top guy in the FBI. And so anyways, they end up falling in love. It's kind of like insta love where like one day we meet, the next day we fall into bed together, and then the third day we get married. So it's kind of like, I find this a lot sometimes in thrillers because they're like, we don't have a lot of time to spend on the romance part. Let's just get it done with. And so that's fine because the thriller part was really good. So I won't ruin it for you, but it's definitely worth reading. The next book is Can't Judge a Book by Its Murder by Amy Lillard, and this is first in the Main Street Book Club Murders, and I gave this book a 1. And there were 3 books in the series, and there were just a couple things that were wrong with it. It looks like a cozy mystery, and it kind of read like a cozy mystery, but it was crass and raunchy. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. There's cursing. She enjoys getting wasted. The police are dumb. She has these 2 love triangles, which she calls them her lovers. And she has, the main character is named Arlo. So it was really hard to connect to a woman named Arlo who was just named that for no reason. And then it's in third person. So yeah, I don't know, like I just couldn't get into it. And it was one of those things where I meant to turn it off. I was listening to it in an audiobook, but I was driving and then I was running errands. And then all of a sudden, by the time I got home, I was like, oh, it's over. So that's how it ended up on this list for this month. The next one is Mimi Gets a Clue by Jennifer Chow, and this is number 1 in the Sassy Cat Mysteries, and it was one of the books that I suggested for the May Book Club. I gave this book a 3. It has a magical talking cat, but no other weird like paranormal supernatural elements to it. The cat just explains that this is how he communicates and he's just better at it than other cats. And his name is Marshmallow. She has a new pet grooming service called Hollywoof that she opens, obviously in Hollywood. And the cat tells her, you know, our neighbor is mistreating dogs. He breeds chihuahuas. You need to go over there and fix this situation. So she goes over, checks it out, and I don't really know anything about breeding, but I guess there's too many of them. The conditions weren't good, and a lot of them, because it's like inbreeding, they were coming out with a lot of genetic defects. And so she warns him that he needs to clean up his act, and then of course the next day he ends up dead and someone overheard them. Now, it's cute. I gave it a 3. It's like a solid cozy mystery. The only thing that was weird was, again, the insta love, which usually doesn't happen in a cozy, but it wasn't really insta love. It was kind of weird because the guy who is her lawyer is working for a pro bono, and then he says to her, hey, I want to be your boyfriend. And she's like, oh, I was thinking I wanted to be your girlfriend. He's like, okay, then let's just do that. And there's no romance, there's no flirting, there's no back and forth and cute repartee. It's just like, we've decided this is going to happen. And then the next day she's like, why don't you meet my parents? So it was, that's why I say it was kind of insta love, but it wasn't. That's why I was very confused by it. Otherwise, it was very cute. I liked all the characters and everybody in the neighborhood. So the next book is Death by Committee by Alexis Morgan. And this is first in the Abby McCree mysteries. Now, I gave this a 3, and I will definitely try the next book in the series to see if it gets better, because it was a really good mystery, but it just had some problems with it. In fact, I made you a list of 6 things where I was like, I hope these get fixed in the next book. So basically, it's about a woman who runs her own business with her husband. They get divorced, so then now she has no job, she has no husband, and then at the same time, she happens to inherit this house from her aunt. And it sounds like she doesn't really talk to her aunt that much. Her aunt makes some quilts, so she goes to her aunt's house to kind of, I guess, take things over and maybe sell it. She's not really sure what she wants to do. And it is in Snowberry Creek, Washington, which I was kind of sad that it happened during the summer because it has such like a cute wintry name to it, right? But that was not one of my problems with the book. So anyways, her aunt has an arch nemesis. The arch nemesis body turns up on the property, and it's possibly been there for months and nobody noticed. And the thing is, she's worried about whether or not her aunt's reputation will be ruined because her aunt might now be labeled as a killer because the body was on her property. But she doesn't really seem to like her aunt. Like, there's one point where they're looking at photos too, and she's like, oh, I so miss my aunt. I really wish that instead of these photos, I could have her quilt. Her quilt. I thought she would say something like, I wish I could have my aunt back. But she was like, no, I just want that quilt that she made. Because I guess her aunt made a lot of great quilts, and she's also part of this like quilting association. So I was like, that's like, that was weird. But that was not one of the 6 things that was wrong with it, even though that was kind of strange. The first thing is, the arch nemesis is her enemy for some silly reason, because I guess her aunt made some tuna salad at a picnic and everyone got food poisoning, and the woman blamed it on her aunt, which honestly, if you're brave enough to eat anything with mayonnaise at an outdoor summer picnic, you better be prepared to get some food poisoning, in my opinion. The second thing is she cries a lot. Like, it's like this damsel in distress, and she's crying for no reason. It's just ridiculous, especially because she didn't even really like her aunt. She'd rather just have a quilt than her aunt back. The third thing is her dog. So she inherits Zeke, which is a mastiff, and I guess they slobber a lot. It's just gross. Like, she keeps describing the slobber. She lets the dog slobber all over other people, all over furniture, all over food. It's just kind of icky. And it doesn't, I know what you're thinking, like, is it important to the mystery? It is not important to the mystery. It's not really important to anything. It's just like a slobber added into the book. You know how I feel about bodily fluids in books. I feel like they should just never be mentioned. So might just be a me thing. Number 4, she keeps getting pushed around. So she's like very whiny about how she doesn't want to help with the garage sale, but they're like, you need to do it. She's like, okay, I'll do it. And then she's like, why did I say yes? I hate doing this. And then she gets roped into going to this awards ceremony. Then she gets roped into taking over all of her aunt's responsibilities for the quilting club, right? So she just kind of like does whatever anybody tells her to do. So I don't know why I found that annoying. I just wanted her to have a goal or some dream of her own, especially after her husband divorced her. But anyways, then number 5 is, and this is probably the worst, is her tenant on the property that I guess she inherited because her aunt had this guy there that's in college, and he is able to live for free as long as he does stuff around the property. This guy is a total and complete jerk, like with a capital J. He's like rude to her. He insults her. He doesn't smile. He's just mean. And she thinks this is the hottest, greatest guy ever. Like, I get it already. You think his abs are hot. She talks about his abs and his body all the time. And no matter how mean he is to her, she finds it attractive, which I think sends like the wrong message to women everywhere at any age. And so there's one part where he's like, you are dumber than a goat. Or what did he say? Oh, no, I know. He said, you have less sense than God gave a goat. And she's like, oh, He's so cute. And so what a nice, she actually thinks, she goes, what a nice guy. Why would you think that? He just insulted. It's like the relationship, the love interest is terrible. Anyways, number 6 is she's rude to this other guy. So this other guy is possibly a murder suspect, and you know, he said his wife left him and she needs to hunt down, I guess, inventory for the quilts. And she's like, well, I know your wife left you, but did she give any indication where the quilts are? And he's like, no, she left me for another man. And she's like, okay, but did she leave a note? Does she have a diary or anything, or an inventory? He's like, no, I told you she took everything and left me. So this goes on and on. This guy's obviously upset, and she just cares all about these quilts. Like, she's all about the quilts. She doesn't care about people. So that was a lot. However, here's the weird thing. I actually really liked the book. Like, I felt like it had like a good, like, supporting cast, a great small town. And if those things could just be fixed, it would be wonderful. So I am going to give the next book in this series another try because there were other things that I really liked about the book. So anyway, so the next one is First to Die by James Patterson. And this is number 1 in the Women's Murder Club. And I gave this one a 5. I absolutely loved this book. So I really like thrillers, if you didn't know that. And this is about a serial killer. And the Women's Murder Club is a group of 4 women. It is the San Francisco police detective who is working on this murder. I'm guessing she's probably the main character for all of them, but I don't know. There's 21 books in the series. And it's really easy to follow which one is in what order because it follows that old numerology where, like, this book is called First to Die, the next book is called Second to do something, the next book is called Third to blah blah blah, fourth, fifth, whatever. Anyways, so in this book, there is a serial killer who murders like couples on their honeymoon. And so this happens 1, 2, 3 times. So now they know they have a serial killer. She's tracking them down. The 4 women in the murders club is a San Francisco police detective, a medical examiner, an assistant district attorney, and a news reporter. So it's kind of like Law and Order without the court part. But I liked all the dynamic of all the women and everything going together. This one also, just as a warning, it had insta love where like she meets her boss, they sleep together, and then all of a sudden they're like married, where you're like, okay, so I guess you wanted to throw some romance in the book, but you didn't want to spend too much time like really fleshing that out. So that's kind of what happened in this book. But I loved it. Can't wait to read more of that. The next one is An Unexpected Peril by Deanna Raybourn. And this is number 6 in the Veronica Speedwell mysteries, which I honestly bought on accident. I was trying to buy another book. I can't remember. I clicked the wrong thing, but this was the best find ever. I gave this book a 5. I absolutely loved it. It's a historical in London. So it's around 1890s. So exactly the same time as Bridgerton, if you've been watching that on Netflix, and the same times as Enola Holmes. It's Regency London. And so I really liked it because, one, it is totally different than any other historical. It wasn't stuffy or anything, but they had like that nice British repartee sort of dialogue, cheeky humor going on back and forth. She is amazing. Like, I really liked it because in Bridgerton, she is, you know, part of the ton and she's rich and like her whole job is to like find a husband, and then if you're not part of the rich ton, you're kind of like nobody. So this was like a totally different take on a different slice of the community, where this is just someone who's smart. She's a trailblazer. She's a member of this group called the Curiosity Club of other women who are just smart and like independent and brave and like self-sufficient. Like, they don't depend on a man. Veronica Speedwell is a lepidopterist. So I honestly don't even know how she makes any money, but she studies butterflies. Maybe for a university. They didn't really get into that. And maybe that's because I jumped into book number 6. And honestly, it kind of read like a young adult book. I can't describe. I mean, clearly she wasn't a young adult. She was like a grown woman and she was having sex with her boyfriend, but there was nothing explicit, just kind of behind the scenes. And for some reason, her mannerisms and her voice, maybe because it was historical, it sounded like she was a 13-year-old. But anyway, so the Curiosity Club is made up of all these cool women who are doing cool, amazing things. And one of them is a mountain climber, and she has been killed. So Veronica thinks she's just there to work on the memorial. One of the ropes has been cut, but really the killer cut the rope. So she figured it out. She's trying to, figure out who the murderer is. And it's like an international thing because she was killed while she was climbing a mountain in another country. It's a fake German country. And anyways, I really liked it. I think you might like it as well, even though I said like it sounded weird like a young adult. And there wasn't really like a straightforward mystery, but I enjoyed the book immensely. Is that a British word? Probably not. I tried to think of a British word to describe it. All right. So the last book, number 7, that I read this month so far is Ellie Alexander's Chilled to the Cone. Now, this is actually not the first in the Bake Shop mysteries. And I got this because I thought the cover was pretty. And I got it for a book haul. And I was like, well, as long as I got it for a book haul and I have the book, I might as well read it. So I have a list of things for this book that I was very confused by. I gave this book a 3. It was a solid mystery. However, all of the side characters and the side stories were like grating on me, and maybe because this is actually book number 12 in the series, so maybe by the time you get to book 12, maybe if I had like known these characters and grown to love these characters, I wouldn't have minded. However, I will tell you what the story is about, and then I'll give you my list of the 9 things that I was like, like this is why it went from like a 5 down to a 3. But basically, she owns a bake shop with her mother, or rather her mom owns a bake shop and she starts working there. And then there's an opportunity for her to put an ice cream shop down a little further into a different area, like just half a mile away. And she wants to make it an ice cream shop because she's been experimenting with ice cream, or her chef has. And so they're going to call it Scoops and put it down there. So in the meantime, there is a murder that happens at some point. I don't think it's right away. It's like 25% of the way in, of this homeless guy. And that's what she's trying to figure out. So here were some things where I was like, I don't know why. So I did read the first book in this series, and I never read any more because, again, same thing. I gave it a 3. It was like, okay, but I didn't love it. But I thought I'd give these another try because 1, I own the book because I bought it. And 2, I know that Courtney loves these books. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll try it out, which is funny because we run the book club together, but we have really different tastes in books. So the first thing I was like, I think this is just me. I like a lying spouse. Like if you're married or even in a couple relationship together, you shouldn't be lying. You shouldn't be cheating. Like these are things for like young adult books, right? Or new adult, like high school level kind of books. And I don't think that should be in a cozy mystery, right? The second thing is she doesn't seem to care at all about her marriage. She keeps talking about how she's working on her marriage, but she doesn't spend any time with her husband. She lies to him. She doesn't talk to him when something disturbing happens. She never calls him to check with him. She goes to other people. So that to me just tells me she probably doesn't really care. Like it doesn't really seem sincere to me when she said she cares about her marriage, which if you know in the first book, she ran away. They both were on a cruise ship together and she found out that he had a secret son that he never told her about, which I kind of feel like I don't know what's happened between like the other 11 books, but I'm kind of like, you got to get over it. You know, like get over it and like be with him or like let him go and move on with your life. Like, how is it in book 12 you're still like flip-flopping back and forth about this thing? Anyways, number 3 is there's like this weird glorification of homeless people. And, you know, I am not an expert on homeless people, but and maybe because it's Oregon, I noticed I read another cozy mystery where they just stopped going on and on about homeless people, but they need help. Like they're not meant to just be hanging out in the community. Like I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that most of them are because of drug use or mental illness. And it's not like they're just hard up for money, right? So they make it sound like he's this wonderful addition to the neighborhood. He gives children balloons. He like smiles at everyone. Like it's not that romantic. I thought it was like a little too powdery or like perfect of his homeless man depiction that they had given in this book. The other thing, there was the glorification of the community supporting him. So if you supported the homeless people, you were wonderful. If you did not, you were evil. And so there's this yoga instructor who is really worried because he is following her, he's harassing her. And I think that's totally legit. And they're like, she's so evil for being upset that this guy is harassing her and following her around, right? Because she's not like with the program to help with the homeless people, which I don't know. Again, like, I don't know what the solution is, but I feel like it was wrong to vilify this yoga instructor who was clearly scared. She's all by herself. The other thing is the forcing one of the employees is like, oh, I'm going to propose to so-and-so. Will you make the dinner or the cake or whatever? And she's like, no problem. As long as you promise to let us hire us to cater your wedding. Which, one, he's a guy. He doesn't have really usually anything to do with the planning of the wedding. And two, like, it just seemed odd that she was like, I'll help you, but then you need to pay me later with a huge bill for like your wedding expenses. I don't know. That just seemed kind of odd to me. And then number 6 is one of the employees asked if he's like, I'm going to ask my girlfriend tonight if she'll move in with me. Like, it's kind of gross and icky to me in a cozy mystery because like usually like you talk about getting married or getting engaged, but she's still in college. I don't know. Like, definitely in my college, and maybe that's because I went to an all-women's Catholic school, nobody was living with anybody. Like, it would just be so bizarre if your roommate was like, you know what, I'm going to move out and I'm going to move in with my boyfriend. Like, that's just like something people do in high school maybe, or right after high school. But in college, like, you're there to like get a degree, have the college experience, get a career. I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird that like, and how do you know? Like, for sure you do not know at all when you're a senior in college who you want to be with for the rest of your life. I shouldn't say that. I know some people get married after college and it's all wonderful and great, but I really just don't think you should be living together. I know you're like, you're so prudish and so like old school. I just don't think that should be in a cozy mystery. I go to my cozies for like clean, like wholesome kind of things. And nobody's like, hey, let's live together. Especially when you're like so young, like you can't even buy alcohol yet because you're like going to be a senior, but you want to move in together. That's just crazy town to me. All right. The next one is demonization of the yoga instructor. First of all, I used to teach yoga. And for whatever reason, they think just because she's a yoga instructor, she should be like Gandhi. She should be peaceful. She should be chill all the time. She should be zen. That's just her job. It's not like if you're an accountant, you're just crunching numbers all the time. Or if you're human resources, you're like trying to help people find jobs all the time. Like, that's just something that she does. Like, I also used to teach kickboxing. It doesn't mean I run around town punching and kicking people. Like, it was very odd how every time the yoga instructor woman did something that was not perfectly like meditative or something, she was just evil, right? They were like, how would you ever expect a yoga instructor? Like, that's just something she does. That's not like the person she is. And I think maybe that's just what happened. Maybe that's what people think about fitness instructors. Like, we're all just like the people who lift weights are just lifting weights all the time, 24/7. And they never eat a French fry or pizza or anything. Anyways, the other thing is she flirts with other men. So again, she's lying to her husband. She can't make a decision one way or another about this whole, like, do I want to be with him? Do I not? And then she said she's working on a marriage, and then she's flirting with other guys, which again, I am 100% against that. There's another book series, the Shelby Nichols series. Absolutely could not stand the main character because she was always flirting with other guys. Even though she was married, she's like, oh, his butt is cute. And she was like checking out other guys' bodies. And I was just like, why have your character be married then if you're going to just make her like this crazy person who's like boy crazy, like trying to chase other people down? Like, that's just not okay. And I mean, maybe in a romance or a reverse harem romance where there's like 7 guys that you're going to date, but it should not be in a cozy mystery. So that was another problem. And then number 9, she always dreads talking to her husband. She's like, oh, I guess I have to talk to him. Like, again, I know that has nothing to do with the mystery, but I just found that really irritating. Like, obviously you just don't care about your marriage. And I think maybe for me, when I read cozy mysteries and they're having a relationship, I feel like they should be trying in this relationship or making a best effort, and they should be honest and forthright. And yeah, so those might just be my personal issues with everything. So that's my review of Chilled to the Cone. Will I read another book in the series? Absolutely not. I feel like I've tried 2 books now and they were both like 3s for me. So anyways, so that's my wrap up for the first 7 books that I read for the first half of May. And I will see you guys for the end of May wrap up, probably in June, because that's when May will be done. All right. I hope you guys are having a great day. I don't know if you're still here. I know I went on and on for a long time, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.